when Nelson Mandela came into power, when the ANC came into power, South Africa was the most focal point in the world. Everything was South Africa. Bands were performing all over the world. People were traveling all over the world. When I'm on Heathrow going to do a gig, I'll see Tandiswaran coming back, Bongo Muffin coming back from some gig. Hi, how's it? And there's Pongile Kumala also. So everyone had to work. I mean, for 4 to 5 months. People were traveling like you won't believe. And I look at the depression. Young people, all of them are using substance abuse. And young girls, 14, 15, getting pregnant, and you know, everyone you see. And it's like, what is causing this? And I had that. So I think we left after 5 days. We went back to England, and Robert helped me put a band together. And we had filmed a lot, you know, did a lot of filming. And we got this whole band together in the studio, and I started showing them, you know, a VHS of where I've been and how these people are living, this explaining to them, you know. And the reason why I chose a London band because a lot of the guys in the beginning said, oh, he could have used a South African band. Why did he use a band from the UK? The only reason why I didn't want to use a band from South Africa, the music could have sounded too African.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You'll find if you want to sell it internationally, people will say, yes, it's nice, but it's too African, you know? So I need something where there's a balance. So, and I knew in my heart that if they try to play African, they're going to try their best to sound like Africans. And I want to see what that's going to sound like.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I had to show them examples on the keyboard. The keyboard player, this is how you play this is how you play that. By then I had already written all the tunes. And before we did anything, I told the engineer, I gave him the DAT cassette, and I said to him, I want you to record a layer of what's on this cassette. And he put in the cassette and he said, Pops, there's nothing on here. I said, yes, that's what I want. He said, well, I can't hear anything. But then here and there, you can hear something sniffing on the microphone, like, you know. And far away, you'll hear people swearing and maybe a snake or something. You know, it just picks up sounds here and there. And he says, yeah, I can hear a few things, you know, but is that what you want? I said, yeah, just as a bed, you know, just to have that ambience. And then we rehearsed for about 2 days, and on the 3rd day we striked. We started recording. And we didn't, I mean, the samples, I didn't cut up any samples, you know, using the Sands voices as samples, you know, just as sample this and, you know, cut and paste. I didn't do any of that stuff. There was this one track which is called Kandodo, meaning God, God, please help us. And that was a proper trance dance from the beginning to the end. So we played on top of that. You know, I arranged the song, and we were actually following them, following the recording of the Sand People. And it turned out to be so beautiful, you know, and that's how we did the whole album. After 2 weeks, I played the mouth bow then as well. I could play the mouth bow. I played the didgeridoo. I played the thumb piano, the mbira. So I could play quite a few instruments by then. And so after 2 weeks, we were mixing the album, me and this engineer, Richard. And the keyboard player, her name is Jessica Lauren. And she was sitting in the studio. And she said to me, Pops, before you leave to go back home, I've got a present for you. I said, what is a present? She says, listen to it. So she goes onto the piano and she plays this amazing song. Absolutely amazing. She went halfway through and I said, stop right there. Stop. And I took my Cora and I said to Richard, press the recording button. And I said, Jessica, start over again. So she started playing and I just started improvising, me and her. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long. And after the track was done, I asked her, what are we going to call this track? What shall we name the album? Then she said, since we're working with the sand, why don't we call it How Far Have We Come? And that's the title of the album, How Far Have We Come? So we started mixing the album, and Richard had his earphones on, and this one track which is called Spirit. You could actually Google Spirit. There's a music video on it of me trying to find my totem spirit, because my totem spirit is the eagle. You know, whenever I had this dream that I often used to get when I'm in trouble or whatever it is, I used to do this. And then I would go up and I would fly like an eagle and see the world through the eyes of an eagle, you know. So we did this music video, you could Google it, where you see me playing the kora in the sand dunes, and I'm looking for my spirit, my totem spirit. And as I'm playing, one of the guys, he trained eagles and hawks and all that. So he brought 2 hawks with him and a silent whistle that he had. So as I'm playing, he would blow this whistle, and you see this hawk just flying, and I spot this hawk, like smiling, wow, finally I meet my spirit. And he blew the thing, and there's a piece of meat just in front of me. And he blew the thing, and he's out of shot, and the thing came straight, and it came right in front of me, and it sat there, took the piece of meat, and I took it, and I lifted the thing up slowly, and I kissed it, and I set it free. And that's where the song ended. And right at the end of the song, you can hear the buzzing of a bee. And it's in stereo. So Richard is mixing, and he went like, and I said, what's wrong? And he took off the earphones. He says, I think there's a bee in the studio. I said, no. Play, and we rewound the thing, and it came on the speakers. I said, that's coming from the ambient tape, that ambience. So that's actually the spirit, I said to him. And he says, Chew, I thought the bee was going in my ear because it went like from left to right, you know, in stereo. I said, that's why I told you I want that layer of that ambience, you know. So after the album was released, it stayed on the world music charts for more than 18 weeks, which was amazing. They used to have what they call Tower Records back in those days in London. And I think Nigeria also had Tower Records. And in France, it was called FNAC. And Tower Records, people, if you on the Piccadilly Circus train from Heathrow, when you get to Piccadilly and you get out of the train, you walk right into the store.
Okay.
Straight into the store, into Tower Records. And right there by the window, you just see how far we come. So people don't want to bother, you know, what's the album of the month. They see this, right, this is the album of the month. Because that store is so big in Six, you won't believe me. I think they had 6 floors. One floor would be pop music. The next floor would be just, you know, jazz, classics, world music, and it goes on and on. And I mean, it's like millions of CDs in there. So people want to know what's the album of the month. They just walk in there and they take it, you know. So that was actually amazing that it stayed on the chart so long. And so far, it's still one of my best albums that I had put out now. And I'm hoping to reissue the album because now that Robert has retired, he moved to South Africa. He's living in Durban now. Um, he's so generous that he took all the master tapes and he gave it to all the artists.
Beautiful.
He says, I'm retiring now. Here's your artist, here's your albums.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah. So everyone, you know, Busi's daughter has got the masters.
Bring
Madala
back our
Kunene.
masters. It can't be an indefinite thing where somebody owns your master forever.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
exactly. So that's what he did.
That's incredible.
And we are all so thankful, you know, for what he done. But I must say that my journey with indigenous instruments has been incredible. It's been incredible. You know, even up to now, you know, when I sit in my room and I play and I think back, you know, the places that I went to, it took me to so many places. When Nelson Mandela came into power, when the ANC came into power, South Africa was the most focal point in the world. Everything was South Africa. Bands were performing all over the world. People were traveling all over the world. When I'm on Heathrow going to do a gig, I'll see Tandiswa them coming back, Bongo Muffin coming back from some gig. Hi, how's it? And there's Pongile Kumala also. So everyone had to work. I mean, for 4 to 5 months. People were traveling like you won't believe. I mean, like, you know, there's very few countries, I mean, that I haven't seen. You know, I can't even count to say how many countries I've been to, you know, because South Africa was the flavor of the month. I mean, we went as far as Vietnam and places that you could never even think of, you know, Nepal, they call it Nepal, that's what they say. That's south, north of India, amazing people, incredible people. Denmark, the Scandinavian countries and all those places. And you meet people with different cultures, different backgrounds. That was the beauty of it. You learn so much from people, and when you come back home, you have so much information that you can share with people. You know, that's the most incredible part of traveling, you know. I was sitting and thinking the other day, I wonder if I'll ever be able to travel again, you know, because that bug is starting to bite me again.
Because you're used to it, eh?
You're used to it. You're used to it, you know. But yeah, it's, you know, I don't regret, no regrets at all.
So there was this other story you used to tell me when we were younger,
Yeah.
about the bees. Do you remember that story? It was like a musical story. You used to tell me about how it was with the sand people and how they can control the bees.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's a myth or what, but I was told, or I heard, that the sand, like the beehive, is a supermarket for the sand people, you know? So they love honey, and they apparently had to find a way to get the honey from the bees without killing the bees and without the bees stinging them. They didn't want to get stung by the bees. So they listened to the buzzing of the bees, and then they would tune their mouth bows closer to that sound, sort of almost accurate to sound, do, 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 you know? And they said, now we have to experiment and see what's going to happen when we play these mouth bows to the bees. And we have to be very careful what's going to happen. They were just experimenting.
Yes.
So they all got ready. I mean, like 10 to 12 musicians. having their mouth bows, and started playing, playing. And they walked towards the beehive. They walked slowly to the beehive, walked slowly, playing, and halting a bit, and watching and playing. And as they played, they realized that the bees all came, they calmed down onto the beehive, you know? And watching this thing that's happening, it's like, okay, let's move closer. And they would go closer, kept on playing. And the leader, now you must remember that the sand people just wear the skin around their waist. And telling the guys, don't stop playing, because if the minute you stop playing, we're dead, man. You know. And then they would move closer and closer, and kept on playing and playing and playing. And he puts his hand into the beehive very slowly and carefully, reaches for the honey, takes it out, and passes it to his friend behind him. And he goes again, and he passes it to his friend behind him. So now bees are walking onto him, you know, like just walking. And I think the music was probably soothing to them, you know. So once he felt that they've got enough honey, they would slowly, slowly move back playing, and he would slowly just move the bees off from his arms, you know, until they're far away. They would go home and then tell the people, look, we've went to beehive number so and so and so. There is still honey, but the other beehives are still intact. So they love honey, you know. They use the honey when they mix shrubs, rubbing on babies. They use honey for their tea, and so many uses for honey.
So beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
So they can extract the honey without hurting the bees.
Without hurting the bees. So it's an exchange. Them living with what in harmony with the environment, with the insects and the animals and things like that, you know. They have a big respect for the environment, for whatever God has given us. They live together with these different species.
But Pops, so you know, I'm trying to understand your connection to the sand, because even when I look at you physically, you look like you come from that kind of people. So I'm wondering if you have any history or connection. Why would you have chosen the sand music?
I don't know. I just fell in love with it because it's like something I've never heard before. And because nobody knew about it. When you speak about the sand people, people say, oh, they answer the kung 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 kung. You know, they make fun of them. And I just thought that, you know, it's time that I do something for these people. So what came out of that whole experiment was Robert got remixes, people who does remixes in London. And they gave them the album called Bushmen of the Kalahari. It's an album that I recorded myself while we were in the desert. Just them alone, no one else. So that album, he gave it to different DJs to remix. And each one chose a track and they remixed it. And they came out with the first album, which is called Sandscapes, #1. And then that went quite big in England, you know, in the clubs, because it was all about house, speed garage, drum and bass, you know, that kind of, all those platforms. And then the Sandscapes #2 was remixed in Cape Town, because Robert moved to Cape Town for a while at Constantia, and he lived there, so he got involved in the music scene there. And he got guys like DJ Reddy D and all those cats to remix the second one. Yeah, Sandscapes number
Wow.
2. So, and that went big as well.
Because
Yeah.
that's such a different culture altogether, hip hop.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Oh, so is that how you became quite popular with the young people? Because,
yes.
yes.
So that's it. That's what happened. And then I recorded an album called The Futurist.
Yes.
And I used indigenous instruments as a lead instrument.
Yes. Ooh, incredible. Mm-hmm.
And the album, the whole album was deep house that I did. It was deep house, and then I gave Revolution, the twins. I gave them the album. I gave what's his name, Rude
Black
Boy,
coffee. Oh.
Rude Boy Paul, DJ Christos, DJ Mbuzo. So I said to them, choose a track, remix it for me. So they remixed the tracks, and I put those tracks as well, and I put them on the same album as well. So that one actually attracted a lot of university students, and that's how I got some work from the university, where I had to make a breakdown of the tracks and how did you do this, how did you do that, how did you do that, different things, what came into your mind to record such an album, so that was really good. I think it was a very good exercise to do that album.
It definitely did broke you into,
Yeah,
well, yeah,
to
the
break
hip
in.
hop
Yeah,
culture, that generation.
yes.
I remember that.
And I also recorded an album in London. This was in the early 90s. Funny enough, Kwaito just came out 1990. And the first Kwaito album, first Kwaito CD that came out was called Kwaito by Spikiri,
Okay.
right? And then Drum and Bass in London came out at the same time. Drum and Bass was called Jungle at the time, hardcore. And I've been hanging around with some of the DJs and friends in London, checking out how do they program drum and bass and hip hop, garage, speed garage, and all those kind of things, just hanging around and checking what they're doing. And we recorded. Robert asked me to do a recording with these two guys. They called the London Sound Collective. So I used samples of the Xhosa people, and we did a drum and bass album called POPS MOHAMED meets the London Sound Collective. It was really, really good album, and those guys are absolutely amazing. We had a way of recording. I would go in during the day, play a few things, a few instruments to them, and they would just give me a tempo, and I'll play to the tempo. I would leave, and then when I go back the next day, the album is done, that track is done, already done. And then I'll do some more. Go home, come back the next day, it's done. But well recorded. And they didn't have much. I mean, this guy, Danny Stiles, the programmer, he just had a small computer, an old microphone, very old microphone, and small, tiny little speakers. That was his studio. But the job that he does, he was very good at what he was doing. He's so skillful. And I think he got a job to go and do programming at Quincy Jones's studios with one of the producers there for almost 3 or 4 years, because recently he contacted me and he said he's back in the UK. So, I might be working with him again, I don't know. So that album was quite big as well, POPS MOHAMED meets the London Sound Collective. Drum and bass using Xhosa sounds.
Like right now, I want to go to the internet and go search all your things, and it's so incredible. Okay, yeah, we're listening.
Yes.
Because you made music for the future, actually.
Hey, yeah.
You've made music for us, for
Yes,
later
yeah,
people.
yes, exactly. That's what it
Yeah,
is. It's
yeah.
documented, you know. Um, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, there's all these new trends that came out, you know, and some guys would complain and say, oh, the music is this, music new, music is gang, 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 gang. But I see it as it's a new opportunity for me to use these new trends, and I would launch indigenous instruments on top of that and work with these young people and make it sound modern. You know, even when I'm doing workshops, I would ask people, what do you play? What do you listen to? I listen to hip hop. You, I listen to kwaito. You, I listen to this. And I would take indigenous instruments and say, right, rap for me. And the guy would rap and I would play whatever I play on the instrument, and they would go like, wow, I never thought that you could use that instrument to, you know, for rapping. You know what I'm saying? So there's all these things which encourages me. You know, it's like this is a new platform here. You know, I have to go for it. You know, I don't see it as a threat to my music because I don't compete with nobody. You know, same as Amampondo, Dizu, and those other guys. We don't compete. You know, our music is just what it is. You know, so I don't see any competition. You know, I do what I do, you do what you do, and I respect what you do, and I know that you respect what I do. You know, so there's no problem on my end. You know, I mean, I listen to these guys, and they've got piano, and I listen to it, and I listen to many ideas. You know, I could do this there, I could do that, I could do that. You know, and also when I listen to stuff, maybe if I listen to a track and I feel I don't really like this track, but I need to understand why don't I like it. You know, what was the artist's intention, and try to contact that artist and say, listen, man, I listened to your track. Tell me more about your track. You know,
What's the importance of these indigenous instruments? I mean, why?
because in Tiki, in 50 years' time, grandfather will be walking with his grandson. They'll be going into the museum and they'll be seeing all these indigenous instruments hanging and ask, Grandpa, what's that instrument? Oh, that is this and this. That is that. Is anyone playing it? Oh, no, people don't play this anymore. There was a guy 50 years ago, POPS Mohammed was his name. He used to play these things. Now that's the thing, it shouldn't happen. Yeah, they could go into the museum, but the instrument itself must be continued to be played. People must continue playing the indigenous instruments, even if he plays it in a hip hop style, or kwaito, or amapiano, or anything. Just play the thing. If you are going to university and you are, you know, you want to become a classical pianist or whatever it is, at least take the time out, learn to play one or two indigenous instruments, because that's going to help you in the future. If you start producing, you become a producer, you start producing, and you will see space where you could add indigenous instruments. You know, it's so very important for us to preserve the instruments, even if it's on a modern platform, as long as it's being played. It needs to be carried on. You know, we come from a long line of people and we want to leave a lineage, you know?
Sure. So our traditional instruments are at the risk of being extinct.
Exactly. Exactly. And we don't want to be blamed for it, so therefore we're passing on, you know?
Yeah.
Because already, I mean, I would love to have workshops with radio DJs, presenters, just in terms of what they play and what's the format, and find out how much do they know about indigenous instruments and the use of it? Is there a place for indigenous instrument in today's music world on the radio stations? And that's a question that we need to ask. You know, it's nice to say, yeah, we Africans, radio station, blah, 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 blah. I remember, I won't mention the name, we went for an interview at a radio station once, and we gave the presenter a track of a San lady playing the instrument, and immediately this person said, no, 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 we can't play this, it's not the format of the station. You know, all of a sudden there's that switch. You know, because this person was scared, might get fired, and say, how dare you play that? You know?
So we can't play our own things.
Can't play our own things. So these things need to be addressed, and it's very important. You know? It's cool for presenters to say, oh yeah, we love, you know, what Dizu is doing, we love what Lulu is doing, we love what Madosini is doing, and these people, we love what Pops is doing. Yeah, these guys are cool, they're hip, you know. But how much do you love it, you know?
You're not putting on the platforms.
You have to put it on the platforms, you know.
You've been in the industry how many years now?
More than 45 years.
Right. What are some of, because you know artists are always the ones crying and complaining, and we are the vulnerable ones. So, I mean, as an elder now,
I'm still crying. Like I said, I'm also crying for myself and for my fellow artists. You know, how would you feel if someone calls you and he tells you, you know, me and my wife, the whole family, we are eating water. Have you got a gig for me? How do you feel when you are also struggling to get gigs for yourself and you want to help this person? You know? So there's all these things that
what's wrong? What's wrong with the industry? Where are we getting it wrong?
Media. Media is focusing on things that's irrelevant for the masses. Yes, I mean, young music, young people, they're living their time, and whatever they put out there, they express themselves through the kind of music that they're doing. But there's a huge gap that no one is taking notice of. You know, when I call old friends, elderly guys and all that, they say, Pops, when are you coming out with a nice Bakanga album, man? I need a CD, man. I need this. The radio stations, they're playing other stuff, you know. Ons verstaan nie weer wat gaan aan nie. What's going on with you guys, man? You and Brakaya them and all that, come out with some stuff, man. We are hungry, you know. So that's the story, you know.
Because people always blame musicians and artists and say that we live extravagantly and we don't know how to save. So what's the response to that?
I don't think people live extravagantly. I think if an artist has an overnight hit and he's making lots of money and he comes from a very poor family, he always wanted to have a car, a nice car, and enjoy his life. And he makes that money, he buys himself a car and he's enjoying his life, you know. It's not to say that he's living extravagant. All he has to do is just to be smart, to save some of his money. You know what I'm saying? And put it aside. That's one thing that I love about Revolution. I mean, they were very big at the time. And they were very smart because they used their money to be extravagant, but they also saved money for the rainy days. You know, but unfortunately there are other artists who makes money just enough to keep them going all their lives. You know, and people think that, wow, this guy is making it. He's making it, but you just make it. You just make it, you know, you just pull through. Like, hey, the next month, hey, what am I going to do? You know, and you just make it as a gig. And that's how it carries on, you know. And you look back and you say, yo, almost 30 years, you know,
Of just making it
of just making
every
it
month.
every month, you know.
That's not a way to live.
That's not a way to live, you know. I mean, some people would book artists who are more into indigenous music only for Heritage Month. Oh, there's so and so and so, you know. That's the only time you'll get a gig, you know. And for me, every day is Heritage Month.
Yeah.
Every day is Heritage, you know. So there's all these things that needs to be addressed, you know. I look at this track, Jerusalem, that went viral throughout the world, you know, and I say to myself, I hope these guys are saving their money for a rainy day. You know what I'm saying?
Because it'll spit you out.
Yeah, it will spit you out. There's a big difference. I realize there's a big difference between being famous and to be known. You're famous, which means you're a mega star. You know, you got it made. But then to be known is a different thing. Everyone knows in Tiki Mazwai, everyone knows POPS, everyone knows this one. But he's not famous because he hasn't made a big hit yet. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I choose the latter to be known. You know what I'm saying? If there's going to be a big hit, then yeah, sure.
So
You
it's
know what
far
I'm
better to be known.
To be known,
to
people
be
know
famous.
you. Yeah. I'm not saying people, there's a lot of people who want to be famous, you know, and I envy them. It's like, wow, you got it made, man. Good luck, bro. You know what I mean? Go for it, my sister. Go for it, you know. And the scary part is about having a hit. You know, you could go right to the top. And what happens from there? How long can you sustain that career? You know what I'm saying? So you've got this big hit, and the next hit, you're still there, and the third one, and then slowly, you know,
Which
poof.
is what happens. Isn't that
Which-
like a Zahara story?
Yes,
Or it's
sad.
played over many times, over many people, hey?
Very sad if you listen to these people's stories and what's happening, you know. So you say, right, this person is right at the top. What's going to happen next? Because sometimes it's dangerous to have a hit because the pressure on you, people are putting pressure, the media, this and that, you constantly, you know, doing interviews and all that, all the pressure. And then you got to write another hit, and to stay at the top, it's hectic, you know. So like if I maybe go to London, and then people would say, oh, POPS Mohammed is in town. You know, well, we haven't seen him in 8-9 years. So, you know, and people would come to my gig and see the gig and all that stuff, you know. You go to France, people will go because they haven't seen you in a long time, you know. So yes, you say, I'd love to have a hit, but I'm not going to put in that effort to actually have a hit record. Although, you know, if you have a hit record, you could make some decent money. But for me, it's something else. It's to make a hit, you know, to be big. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. Yeah, it's a lot
A
of
lot
hard
of
work.
pressure. A lot of mental work is what you're
A
saying.
lot of mental work as well, you know. I mean, you can approach a record label today and tell them that you have a couple of tunes that they should, you know, put out for you, sign a contract with them. If it's not what's happening now, they won't even touch it and say, look, this is dated, you know. I mean, you know, this is what's selling now, you know. So the passion of some of the record labels for music, live music, proper music, has also gone.
Sure. The creative industry, the arts, you know, if you are crying, if I'm crying, if even the new ones are coming crying, what is it that we can do? Like, why don't we have an artists' union? We don't have medical aids, guys. We don't
Nothing.
have retirement annuities. We don't have, and you can't be such a big household name and then not have medical aid.
It's bad. I'm hurting because 3 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, I won't name the place and the person, I did a gig, solo concert, amazing, people loved it. And I was told, you know, after a few days you'll get paid. Few days, nothing. Few days, nothing. Then I was told, tomorrow I'll pay you. The money will be reflecting. And then the next thing, you let me know that you're waiting for the full amount to come in. And I got harsh with this person, and I text a very harsh one, and it says, I will call you.
Are you still waiting for the call?
Still waiting.
He hasn't paid you for the gig.
No.
Oh, it's just because you've got grace. I would have definitely called out that name. I mean, we shouldn't be at that point. Also, you, Pops, you cannot go to gigs without 50%.
Well,
You
I'm,
trusted.
yeah, I'm just waiting for that call. Because I know what I'm going to do, you know. It's just like, but what is going on? You know, you've been chasing after me for months to come and play for you. And now this, you know. Yeah, that's what we're going through. And I'm not the only one. There are many, many
No, you're
musicians.
not.
There are many musicians going through this, you know.
I've stopped performing because I was like, this is just a waste.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. So what happens is you sit down and you think, how am I going to sustain my career if this is what's happening? How do I make sure, apart from my other musical colleagues, how am I going to earn a living to have like 2 or 3 gigs that will keep me going? What do I do? You know what I'm saying? So you need to figure out that for yourself and speak to the other musos, and this is what I want to do, and speak to them and say, let's get together and tackle this thing. Let's help one another.
It's so unfair. The amount of work that musicians do.
Yeah.
Yo. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, in our culture, the musicians, Izangoma, we are the spiritual healers. So if the healers of society are crying, then society's in trouble.
Exactly. Exactly. So, you know, I say, thanks God, I'm very patient. You know, it's funny, to be honest. This morning, I thought that I'm going to call this person and say, listen, man, I think you better speak to my manager, Nchiki Maswai. I don't want to deal.
I was about to say to you after the shoot, can you give me this person's number, please?
I was thinking
We're on the
that.
same page.
I said,
Okay.
hey, the strat mate.
We are going to do exactly
she'll
that, Papa.
wreck you, man. She'll eat you up. I thought that this
It's
morning.
so unfair,
You
though.
know?
I mean, you are grown. You're a legend.
You know, I just thought, I had to laugh. I said, hey, in 6, what will she do to this person?
Give me that phone number, Brapos. Give me that phone number, Brapos.
Hey, yeah,
Yeah, no, we can't be having that now. And
Yo.
oh, no. Sure. Anyways, my pops, I don't want it to end on a sour note.
No, it's not a sour note. It needs to come out, you know.
Yes,
because
it makes
it
me
needs to come out.
sour.
Because there's, there are people watching this show,
Yeah,
there's musicians who are
yeah.
watching, because I know what they're going through.
Yes,
I mean, like,
we are all going through this.
yeah, we are all going through this. I mean, if someone calls you and he says, I'm eating water, have you got a gig for me? Have you got a session? Even if I just come and play bass, you know, I just sold my cell phone, pawned my cell phone just to get bread and butter and stuff like that. So people call, and this is what's happening, you know.
And the depression.
The depression.
The drug, the substance abuse because of the depression.
Depression. And I mean, I moved back to my hometown, and where I live, you'll come and visit me. I look at the depression, and I lived in Johannesburg for more than 28 years. You know that, in Norwood. My one foot is still in Norwood. And I'm back in my hometown, and I look at the depression. Young people, all of them are using substance abuse, and young girls, 14, 15, getting pregnant, and you know, everyone you see. And it's like, what is causing this, you know? You know, if I go to the mosque, you'll find someone say, Pops, uncle, they call me Pa. If you come to the flat, you ask anyone where's Pa, they'll say that's where he's staying. Pa, please pray for me. And this person wants to come out. They want to get out of that, you know? And you want to give charity, you know, you've got a couple of rands in your pocket, and you say, I mean, I feel so sorry for this girl, but if I give her 10 rand, I know what she's going to do with it. You know? And there's this thing of people asking for, give me a 2 rands. You know, this 2 rand is a very famous thing. I still don't know what is this 2 rand, what do they do with the 2 rands, you know? But it's very, very sad, you know? It's funny, I had this idea a couple of weeks ago that we should have an interview driving around Actonville with one camera, and we do the interview of my upbringing, where the places I used to go. The house where I was born, it still stands.
Oh, wow.
It's hanging like this,
Okay.
you know, and I can show you the room where I was born.
Oh, wow.
The Davy Social Center is still there.
Oh, wow.
The old dog clinic is there. All the buildings. You know, Bra Keifas spent most of his time in Actonville.
Okay.
He grew up there. So he wanted me to take pictures of all these buildings. Is the Davy Social still there? I said, yes. And what about the old beer hall, you know? Because you remember when we had Umkomboti, we made our own Umkomboti, and the police would come and they would take everything and just throw it out in the streets, back in the apartheid days, in the pavement. And then they built this sort of beer halls where they made their own Umkomboti. That was sort of legal for black people.
Legal. Because
Yeah.
the money is going to them.
Besides that, so people used to go now to the beer hall, and what happens? We started realizing that black people are getting diabetes, and this is happening there, and blah, 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 and all kind of things were happening to our people. You don't know what what substances was in that beer. So you had to
my
drink
God.
that and not your own mkomboti.
This is warfare.
Yeah. You know, so Bra Caiaphas asked me, and that old beer hall, I said, Bra Caiaphas, it's still there. The Liberty Cinema, I said, the Liberty Cinema is still there. And they are all their historical buildings where we used to go to. We used to pay sixpence, you know, which is 5 cents. In those days, 6 pennies to go and watch a double feature, 2 movies. I can tell you a very nice story. During you go to the movies, there's a double feature. There's the first movie that plays, and then there's an interval. So after the interval, there's a serial. You know, I don't know how to explain it. Say Superman.
Yeah.
He's flying, and then all of a sudden, someone gets him and he donors him, you know, and he sort of dies or whatever it is. So next week, they call it next week. We
Yes.
used to
Oh
call
my
it
gosh,
next week.
yes, yes,
So you
yes.
have to see next week
Yes.
what's going on, you know. So you come and you stand at the door and you don't have money. And I remember the guy used to stand at the door to enter. His name was Tommy, Brad Tommy. So when after interval, the cereal comes on, and everyone would scream, cereal! And you know, Brad Tommy, please, man, I want to go in. But Brad Tommy, the cereal is going to start. I sorry, I go. Oh, Brad Tommy, the cereal is going to go. He says, right, give me your face. So you give the face, he spit on his head, he give you a hell of a clap. Bah! Get inside and you run, ish, and you run just to watch the cereal. Oh, it was crazy times, man. It was amazing. That's how we grew up. Even there where I'm living, there were 2 cinemas. One is called the Star Cinema, and that's right behind the flat where I'm living. I can see the cinema. I say, oh, we used to come to the Star Cinema. If a movie plays at Liberty, the next week it will be playing at the Star. So we as young kids growing up, for instance, Dracula, you know Dracula, we would watch the movie at Liberty, and then next week it will play at the Star. At Star. So we'll go and watch the movie again, and then we would actually play the movie.
Oh, that's so sweet.
We used to play the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Remembering everything, and then we boys and the girls, everyone playing out the movie, which was amazing, you know. Although it was apartheid during those days, we grew up. I can't regret my youth, you know. We grew up, you know, so it was amazing.
Thank you so much, Papa. We really enjoyed our time with you.
Yes.
Thank you. And we'll definitely come to Benoni with the camera and then go to where you grew
Yeah,
up and
yeah,
then go on
yeah,
your journey.
yeah.
And thank you
Yeah.
for honoring the invitation.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me.
Kamaku.
I'd love Kamaku. I'd love to come and do this. We continue. There's still more stories that I need to tell you.
Fine, we
Like
are ready
I was
for
just
you.
touching. I was just touching. you know.
Fine, we can come for part 2, part 3. There are many
Yeah,
people who
yeah.
come and do that. So we'll see you again next time. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Papa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Umoya Light, Umoya Bright. It's been such a privilege having you guys. Please go check out Pops's music on the internet. As you can hear, he's mixed with drum and bass, Lili Watwat. So I'm sure there's things that you're gonna find there, especially you, my babies, because you're the children of the future. Kamakwini, and see you again next time.
And there's a new single coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll put that in.
Yes.
Thank you, Papa.
Kamaku.
Kamaku. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Who are you when all you were has been diluted by lies and white lines cancelling out all that which has been written of your history? Why do you look at yourself as a mystery? Doesn't the sun shine because you open your eyes? Doesn't the moon stay situated within the same stars your DNA sparkles off? Your spirit knows that surely khona into e off. Buza umoya so you may return to being well off. Because spiritually you are rich, yet your ancestors cry because you are out of reach. But yours is to command all elements while God takes inspiration from the very mirror she looked at to become. Remember who you are and never finish just when they think that with you they are done.